Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Nathan. I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
Dave, this is Call of Cthulhu.
It is, Nath, yeah.
Did you know it's actually called the official video game adaptation? Because it is an adaptation of the 1981 tabletop game called Call of Cthulhu.
Yes, I didn't know that, but I did know that it's based on that tabletop game, and that is what really sets this game apart for me.
Yes, I know, right? So, a bit of an introduction. We saw this game last year. We did a video on it, kind of telling you the basics of the gameplay. We've actually seen it again now, and it's got a release date, Dave. It's out on the 30th of October.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So here are 5 things you'll actually be doing in Call of Cthulhu. Number 1 is investigating. You are, after all, a private investigator, Edward Pierce. And here you're investigating a big whale.
Well, I think it's obvious, mate. It's died by those big slashes, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's what has done that, because there are no sharks in this bay.
Well, I'm not a private investigator.
Look at this panning shot, by the way. Look at the very Lovecraftian lighthouse.
That lighthouse, you only saw it for a moment. It looks amazing.
I don't want to go over there. I might go mad. So you are on a place called Darkwater Island. You've come there to investigate the fact that an entire family has just died.
That's worth investigating, yeah. That's weird.
And you don't know why. Mysterious circumstances. The locals are all very mysterious and untrustworthy, and there are mysterious circumstances to be investigated, so that's why you're here. They lived in like a big New England mansion. The whole setting is extremely Lovecraftian, as you'd expect. I was thinking Edward Pierce, a nice guy. And then I saw this. This is PlayStation 4 B-roll, which has been very kindly given to us. That's not a nice thing to do.
That guy did spit at his feet, though.
Right, yeah,
to be
I
fair,
guess.
he's just saying, I'm not having any messing.
But maybe that guy looks so drunk he doesn't really remember what he was doing.
Something I just want to say, Nath, is that I think this, as I said, the special sauce for this is how if it references the tabletop game, it doesn't just use it for the setting. But it's in all the gameplay as well, as hopefully we will see. We
will see, yeah. We're moving on to point number 2 now, though, which is more about the kind of Lovecraftian stuff. And it's a tricky one to pull off in a video game, but there are going to be hallucinations.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? They stressed several times in the presentation, your character will go mad.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. So you're going to experience weird stuff like this, and don't worry, it's about to get significantly weirder. And I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Because you don't want anything to happen to you that's like a trick. Like when you're controlling a character, you know what I mean? You're like, the basis of the reality within which you're playing is quite important to how involved you get with the game.
Yeah.
But I guess in a Lovecraftian setting, you have to, all bets are off.
It is a journey into madness. They were like,
what we're looking at right now, Dave, is there are 2. This is a 2-parter, but number 3 is gathering clues.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason that it goes with the investigation, obviously. And one of the, you might actually recognise a bit of this. We mentioned this last time, that it reminds us a bit of the Focus Interactive Sherlock Holmes games.
Yeah, definitely.
There is actually a bit of the DNA in there, I think, because initially this was in development at Frogware, which is the actual developer of those Sherlock Holmes games. And what you do is you take the gathering of clues, and depending on what you gather, you move into this, number 4, what they call a reconstruction. Not quite sure that this is actually the final name for it just yet, but what clues you gather then determine what kind of deductions you can make once you go into your private detective reconstruction mode here.
Yeah, that's right. And so the more you gather, the more accurate your deductions can be. I guess, like you said, there's certain things you just won't be able to find out if you haven't found the clues previously.
Yeah, but they were stressing that there are many ways to get to the end of the game, so you don't have to find every clue, you don't have to solve every puzzle.
That's right, yeah, it's not just like a yes or no kind of thing, like you didn't find enough, so you failed.
Speaking of no, I'm saying no to that portrait.
Yeah, who would put that on their wall? Seriously?
I don't know, and also, like, he recognised, earlier on he found that portrait, because this is a reconstruction, and he's like, oh, it's that guy. And it's like, what guy is that with a tentacle coming off his head?
To be fair, if you knew that guy, you'd recognise him in a portrait.
That is
straight
true,
away.
yeah, if I'd seen him in real life.
Oh, that's definitely that guy.
And this is what happens after the reconstruction, a kind of a summary of the clues you've taken into it and the deductions you've made. Look, he's realising certain things must have happened in a certain order in the kind of controversial circumstances of this. Well, I guess every time an entire family dies, this quite controversial.
Yes, that's true. But it doesn't just do the kind of maths for you here, does it, Nath? Like I remember that there's after this scene, there's you're in the house, I think, with a police officer who asks you about your findings, and you, the player, have to make decisions about
what you've
about
seen,
what you've deduced,
yes,
about how you're interpreting the deductions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's actually kind of one other. I like that because it's kind of board game. This is number 5 now, which is just it's just about it's actually, you've already mentioned it. It's about the Lovecraftian world. I love the kind of the setting of the house. I love how green the entire game is. That is a very Lovecraftian color for some reason. But this is about going mad. I mean, you're definitely going to go mad in this game. That's what happens. And one of the things that I actually wanted to kind of talk about, they alluded to it. They didn't really explain how the mechanic worked, but they would say that as you go into certain areas, depending on your stats and depending on what you know, it's like the game is rolling dice for you in the background.
Yeah.
And then the areas will, be different in some way depending on what those rolls are. And that kind of element of dice rolling, as invisible as it might end up being in the final game, I guess that's why it's the official adaptation of the board game. They're really, they're taking it very seriously.
Well, I just think that's cool. I think they, like I said, they haven't just taken the tabletop game and used the setting and go, that's a nice setting, a nice story. They've thought about what that game entails, what players are doing in that, and how they can bring that to a video game, and I think that's really cool. And things like your character having to do checks, behind the scenes checks. When you find something, does he know what this is? Does he know the history of this, the lore of it, or whatever?
It does speak to people who've played the board game, understood what's fun about it, and then have tried to bring that into this adaptation.
Yeah, and if you haven't played tabletop games like that, then you might not know what we're talking about. Is that him? Is it a portrait of him?
No, I don't know, but in the trailer, he underground, he does find a giant portrait of his own face with a gun to his head.
Oh, that would make you go mad.
I think maybe at that point you're already mad. But who's this?
I don't know.
Is that person real? An assailant. Call of Cthulhu, everybody.
Oh,
5 things you'll be doing in this Lovecraftian adaptation of the tabletop game. When it's released on the 30th of October, do give this video a like if you enjoyed watching what I think is the first PS4 gameplay that's been out there. Comment, let us know what you think. And do subscribe to PlayStation Access because we'd really, really like you to.
And we're slowly descending into madness.